Assalamualaikum. My name is Kuno Adlin Binti Kunaim. I'm from Bachelor of Health Science Honours Nutrition. I'm going to present about the study of fat content and fatty acid profiles in beef patty formulated with brown rice and rice bran off. This study was supervised by Professor Rosli, Ishak. So this is the outline of the presentation that I'm going to cover today. Brown rice is one type of the commonly consumed whole grain in which of the essential layer of the rice grain are still intact. RBO is a valuable byproduct of the rice mining process. Nowadays, our populace were exposed to the massive promotional and persuasive advertisement that lead to the consumption of food that high in saturated fat, sodium and sugar. This lead to the emerging of health illnesses. These factors are the major risks of the cardiovascular. As stated in the National Diabetes Registry Malaysia, the prevalence of the patient in Malaysia are having diabetes with type 1 and type 2 are almost 1 million. According to the NHMS, 4 out of 10 Malaysian are having the 38.1% prevalence with high cholesterol level. And the third one is the inadequate consumption of fiber. 95% of Malaysia adults equal to 9 out of 20 do not eat the recommended, and this will lead to the constipation, obesity, increases of risk colon, liver and breast cancer, and also increase the cancer mortality death. So this is the research objective, the general objective and the specific objective. This is my research hypothesis. The significance of the study is to determine the proximate composition and to promote the substitution of brown rice in the replacing of starch and the rice bran oil in the replacing of beef fat. The study also acts as informative and scientific data for health professionals and educators. Rice is a staple food for Malaysia and remains the main source of energy. Domestic rice production is more than 77% of total domestic and 23% was imported. This made the Malaysia the 9th biggest rice buyer and consumer, about 2.2 million tons of rice annually. Most of the local would like to consume ST15 long grain, which is the cheapest and most popular, while for the upper income earners and those in urban area, more prefer to the imported rice, such as jasmine fragrant rice. Brown rice is a whole grain, which only the hull, which is the outermost layer, is removed and the remain the three parts of the grain kernel. Brown rice is not limited to only one color because it comes in shade of brown, purple and red. Brown rice high in fiber, low in calorie and no trans fat or cholesterol. It also contains essential fatty acids, B vitamins, vitamin E and antioxidants. RBO presence of gamma oryzanol, which is a complex of ferulic acid ester of phytosterol and triterpene alcohol. This is a natural rich source of antioxidant and unsaturated fatty acid. RBO also loaded with bioactive compound that are rich in dietary fiber and also with the other dietary minerals. RBO also improve the biological activities. Dietary fiber and its association with health. The first one is cancer and gastrointestinal. Resistant starch and oligosaccharide are two components that work together with dietary fiber in tandem to support gastrointestinal health by increasing the bulk of stool in the intestine, which in turn has turned its elimination from the bowel, because brown rice consists of enol hexaphosphate, which is antioxidant. Second one is obesity and type 2 diabetes, because whole grain related to the fasting insulin concentration, body weight, fat distribution, and help by maintaining the blood sugar control, which is brown rice is a low GI food. The third one, cardiovascular disease. Fiber help to lower the LDL cholesterol level, move waste through the digestive tract, promote fullness, and may help to prevent the formation of blood clots. While RBO was reported to have a cholesterol lowering effect because of unsaponifiable components and rich in gamma oryzanol. Fatty acid technique. Extraction of fatty acid using the Rosli extraction technique because it gives shorter time and cheaper cost. For the derivation, GC was used to analyze because of absence of chromophores in fatty acid linkage, and the esterification of FME is mostly being used because it involves easy step and quick procedure. Detection of fatty acid have two, either GC or HPLC, but for this study, GC was chosen and GCMS were used as the analyzer. Moving on the methodology part, research design is the experimental design. This slide shows inclusive and inclusive criteria. The data analysis were analyzed by ANOVA. 95% confidence level were used, and then the result will be expressed as mean and standard deviation, or the measurement are done in triplicate. The table below shows the beef patty formulated with different levels of rice bran oil. The differences are between rice bran oil and fat. For the brown rice, the amount of the brown rice are similar to each of the beef patty. And this slide show you the processing and cooking procedure were done. This is the nutritional composition, consists of proximate, physical traits, dietary components, determination of fatty acid profile. All the data was done in triplicate and done for two types, which is uncooked and cooked beef patty. Moving on, FME preparation. FME were prepared by esterification with sodium hydroxide in methanol. The sample were then analyzed using an Agilent 7890A series model gas chromatograph equipped with Agilent 7693 auto-injector, a mass spectrometry system, and used fused silica capillary column CB23 with helium as a carrier gas with flow of 1 ml per minute and a split of ratio of 1/100. 0.1 gram sample of uncooked beef patty oil was weighed and transferred into the screw cap bottle, which contained of sodium hydroxide and hexane. Then the screw cap bottle was made using vortex for 10 seconds until there was a layer formed. Only the upper layer phase was pipetted out and transferred to the centrifuge tube. Then the centrifuge tube were placed in the centrifuge air off for 5 minutes and speed 30 rpm. Then the upper layer was pipetted into 1 ml glass vial and stored under sub-zero condition in refrigerator. The same procedure was being conducted for cooked beef patty oil. Moving on, result and discussion. First one, the proximate composition. These two tables show the chemical analysis of uncooked and cooked beef patty incorporated with brown rice and rice bran oil. Okay, the first one, protein. The concentration of protein was increased with the level of RBO used in the beef patty. But uncooked beef patty formulated with RBO was not significantly. Meanwhile, for the cooked beef patty, significant. And the highest concentration of protein belongs to 75% of cooked beef patty. While for the fat concentration of beef patty formulated with the RBO for uncooked, in control 25%, 50% levels of RBO recorded higher content of fat compared to 75% level of RBO. Meanwhile, for the fat concentration in the cooked beef patty are increased, but the result was not significantly. For the carbohydrate concentration of both beef patties was decreased proportionally with the level of RBO and was not significantly. Furthermore, the data incorporation of RBO and brown rice in cooked beef patty resulted in a decrease in moisture and ash content significant in cooked beef patty. Moving on, dietary components. The total dietary fiber concentration was increased in line and significantly with the RBO levels in beef patty formulation. So, both beef patty formulated with 75% of RBO in both beef patty recorded the highest concentration of TDF each. For the physical characteristics of cooked beef patty added with brown rice and RBO, apparently the cooking yield and moisture retention properties were decreased in line with level of 25% and 50% of RBO, but have increased in the beef patty with a level of 75% of RBO formulation. Among all beef patties, the control beef patty recorded the highest cooking yield and moisture retention respectively. Meanwhile, for the patties formulated with 25% and 50% level of RBO, recorded lower cooking yield and moisture retention compared to the 75% level of RBO. For the fat retention was not significant and gradually decreased with controlled beef, followed by the level of RBO. The diameter reduction was increased with the level of RBO, but decrease in the level of RBO in the 75%. So these findings are supported by the previous effort by Ibrahim et al., who utilized rice bran and flaxseed oil respectively in beef patty formulation, and also supported by Choi et al., who supplemented emulsion in pork meat with different lipid types and brown rice bran. A previous study documented that the TDF value of the flaxseed oil and rice bran in beef patty in formulatory, which is 75% of rice bran, are close to the values in the present study. Adding brown rice recorded an increase in the total dietary fiber due to its characteristic, which is a whole grain that is relatively low in calorie, high in fiber, gluten-free, and can be incorporated into a variety of dishes. Besides rice bran oil that loaded with bioactive compound that enrich in dietary fiber and dietary minerals such as gamma oryzanol, contribute to the excellence of stability and functionality of rice bran oil. In the present study, the percentage of the cooking yield, moisture, and fat retention and diameter reduction during cooking was comparatively similar. Cooking yield is considered one of the most important physical quality changes that occur in beef patty during the cooking process due to the protein denaturation and releasing fat and water from the beef patty after cook and storage. The percentage of cooking yield of beef patty sample containing brown rice and RBO was lower than the control sample. This may be due to the adding of RBO to pre-emulsion made products, which caused the reduction of cooking loss due to its water and fat binding properties, thus enhance the texture. Also, the value of moisture retention and fat retention for beef patty sample increased with the increase of level of RBO in the beef formulation, which were attributed to the higher water and oil binding capacity of rice bran. So this is the extracted fat from the salt slag technique was used for the determination of fatty acid profile. As shown here, this is the sample extract from the salt slag. The sample was stored in the glass vial under the sub-zero condition, and then each of 500 microliter sample was diluted with 500 microliter dichloromethane and stored in a universal bottle. Then they were mixed with FME solution, which is sodium methoxide in methanol. After the solution had been made, the upper layer was the layer of interest. The layer was then preserved in 1.0 glass vial with labeling and stored under sub-zero condition in the refrigerator. The analysis held by GCMS give chromatogram with retention time and peak area as a result. No internal standard was added for this study, thus there are two main chromatogram, which is uncooked and cooked beef patties. Data were calculated using the normalized peak area percentage of total fatty acid content and then converted to the percentage lipid with 0.616 as conversion factor described by Chan et al. So as you can see here, C18, 1, 9 and 9 is the methyl oleate, is the most abundant fatty acid in the uncooked beef patty. For C18, which is methyl stearate, and then methyl palmitate, C16 is the second and third abundant fatty acid present in the uncooked beef patty. And only uncooked beef patty without RBO, which mean control, contain C20, but in a least number. Based on the percentage of peak area calculated from the chromatograms, this table showed that C18 and C18 1 and 9, which is methyl oleate, is the most abundant fatty acid that detected in the extract of the cooked beef patty. Meanwhile, the control 75% and 75% formulated with RBO, both C16, which is methylpalmitate, and C18 methylstearate were the second and third abundant fatty acid present in this cooked beef patty. Furthermore, same as the uncooked beef patty, only C20 C20 for the beef burger without RBO. For the fatty acid, for the 50% of rice bran oil, um, the the second abundant was methyl stearate, which is C18, and then C18 2, which is omega 6, was the third abundant in the 50% RBO level. There are 7 fatty acids common in this cooked and uncooked beef patty, which is stated in the slide. Only beef patty without RBO recorded the C20 in both samples. The variation of fatty acid profile could be due to the nature of the uncooked and cooked beef patty. However, the lipid content in both patty were not significant. Based on this finding, the fortification of RBO and brown rice in both patty contain most abundant number of C18, which is omega 9, and C18 2, omega 6. These fatty acids are crucial components of cell membranes. Because they are beneficial for health and normal physiological function of human. Furthermore, in RBO itself, it contains natural oil that rich in omega 6 and omega 9, and also essential vitamin oil such as gamma oryzanol, who are important components of cell membranes and play an important role in preventing heart attack and reducing bad cholesterol level. So, in conclusion, partial replacement of fatty fat with oil rich in monounsaturated fatty acid, MUFA, such as rice bran oil, and the replacement of potato starch with brown rice is a good source of dietary fiber. This will improve the oxidative stability and also the nutritional value as well. All beef patty could be considered as a good source of omega 9 and omega 6 since both are abundant in this study and represent a very valuable essential nutrient choice for the maintenance of a healthy body. There are some limitations in this study. The first one, this study did not use the internal standard as a standardized in chromatogram. So the study couldn't compare the peak of the chromatogram with the standard. The second one, the study did not perform the sensory attribute. This is because due to the COVID-19 arise in our country, and then lack of time and also lack of number of staff and students in the campus. For the future study, the maybe the validation process could be done so that the data was more specific, precise, and accurate. And in addition, this study should have sensory attributes of cooked patties as a result of the influence of the addition of brown rice and RBO in the patties formulation. This effort will be indirectly increase the composition of dietary fiber while lowering the fat content without affecting the sensory descriptor of the products to which the customer is familiarized. And then moreover, internal standard need to be inserted in running of GCMS, thus can compare the peak of the fatty acid according to the standard. So that's all from me. Thank you.